Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at All Fools by George Chapman, dating from 1604, 1605-ish, performed by the children of the Queen's Revels. So it's a boys' company play. We're squeezing it into two sessions, so we're going to be moving at some pace through the text, but hopefully I will not strangle our attempts to discuss it in between. But without too much of a pause, we'll go straight into who's reading what. Reading Cornelio and initially Fortunio is
Oh, it's Simon Nader in Dublin.
reading Valerio is
Lois in London.
reading the prologue, and Claudio is
Honor in London.
reading Gostanzo, and Dariotto is
Alan in Suffolk.
reading Rinaldo is
Donald in Northamptonshire.
reading Marc and Gazetta is
Aliki in Athens.
reading Bellanora, and Page is
Lynn in the Northwest US.
reading Gratiana, and Pock is
Sue in Drury Lane, London.
and just joining us to read Fortunio. Alas, Simon, I taketh away. Reading Fortunio is
Sarah Blake, who's really hoping Fortunio isn't in the first scene while she downloads her script.
alas for you. Luckily for you, there is a prologue and a moderate speech beforehand, so you have a moment to get up to speed. I will pause as if necessary. Otherwise, we will crack on with the prologue. So let's find out what the prologues us about.
The fortune of a stage, like fortune's self, amazeth greatest judgments, and none knows the hidden causes of those strange effects that rise from this hell or fall from this heaven. Who can show cause why your wits that in aim at higher objects scorn to compose plays, though we are sure they could, would they vouchsafe it, should, without means to make, judge better far than those that make, and yet ye see they can. For without your applause, wretched is he that undertakes the stage, and he's more blessed than with your glorious favours can contest. Who can show cause why the ancient comic vein of Eupulus and Cretinus, now revived subject to personal application, should be exploded by some bitter spleens? Yet merely comical and harmless jests, though ne'er so witty, be esteemed but toys, if the void of the other satirism's source. Who can show cause why quick Venerian jests should sometimes ravish, sometimes fall far short of the just length and pleasure of your ears, when our pure dames think them much less obscene than those that win your parineric spleen? But our poor doms, alas, you know, are nothing to you, your inspired censure. Ever we must needs submit, and there's the mystery. Great are the gifts given to united heads, to gifts, attire, to fair attire, the stage helps much. For if our audience see you on the stage depart before we end, our wits go with you all, and we are fools. So fortune governs in these stage events, that merit bears least sway in most contents. Auriculus asni quos non habat. How we shall then appear, we must refer to magic of your doms, that ne'er err.
And end prologue. We'll briefly just try to unpack that because I found that moderately incomprehensible.
Yes.
And I mean, you know, often people will make a reference to classical drama, and they'll mention Plautus, they'll mention Aristophanes. They don't usually refer to Eupolis and Cratinus, of whom almost nothing survives. They are deeply obscure even for people who know about theatre.
Yeah.
It's really weird. So it's like, it's incomprehensible even to people who are specialists in this.
Yeah.
Uh,
And what are quick Venerian jests anyway? I mean, does this mean bawdy jokes or
I
something?
think it does because
Yes.
Venus.
Yeah, Venus.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, yes, no, I'm still trying to figure this out. Why some people scorn to compose plays, but they judge them. He's probably being sarcastic about people who criticize plays even though they're not capable, or they don't write them, although they pretend they can or something. He seems to be objecting to something or other that's going on in the theater at the moment, which we may not know about.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of root of what it's doing is sort of some people in the audience might want to criticize us, maybe you shouldn't, which is fairly standard, but he does it in such an obscure and weird way that I have no idea really what he's talking about as he's saying it. Lynn, then Simon.
I was just going to say Chapman's syntax, man.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask Lois, have you read Chapman's translations of Homer?
Only bits.
Yeah, because like, who was it? Keats or Shelley?
Yeah, I know Keats. No, it was Keats who said that he never really got the sense of what Homer was like until he read Chapman. But I mean, he had to read something. I mean, he had to read it in translation. That was a translation, and there are still people who like it, like his version. But yeah, there's a lot of this. I mean, incidentally, that Latin line means "who doesn't have ass's ears." It's easy Latin. That's why I can understand it. But yeah, there's something weird here too. If our other audience see you on the stage depart before we end, does he mean, you people who are sitting on the stage, we're not going to be very happy if you walk out? I mean,
I think so. Yeah. But...
Yeah. Simon.
I was just going to say I had a Chapman flashback. I recall one of the other pieces of his that we read. I think we came to the conclusion that he was trying to be too clever by half in quite a lot of it. I can't remember what that would have been. Maybe someone else will remember. But I had a flashback to somebody saying "too clever by half."
Yeah,
we read A Humorous Day's Mirth. I know that one.
Maybe it was.
I think we generally enjoyed that one. I think it's the thing is that some of the earlier ones we really quite liked, and then when he started doing things that are a bit classical, we went, okay. So hopefully that's just for the prologue. Hopefully that's not in the rest of the play. Hopefully the rest of the play will be fine. Let's move on and dive into some text proper. Because Ottom would cut this prologue and get on with the play. So that's fine. Decision made. Act 1, Scene 1. I think there is a scene 2 somewhere. Anyway, enter Rinaldo, Fortunio, and Valerio.
Can one self-cause in subject so alike as you two produce effects so unlike? One like the turtle, all in mournful strains wailing his fortune, the other like the lark, mounting the sky in shrill and cheerful notes, chanting his joys aspired, and both for love. In one, love raiseth by his violent heat moist vapours from the heart into the eyes, from whence they drown his breast in daily showers. In the other, his divided power infuseth only a temperate and most kindly warmth, that gives life to these fruits of wit and virtue, which the unkind hand of an uncivil father had almost nipped in the delightsome blossom.
Oh, brother, love rewards our services with a most partial and injurious hand. If you consider well our different fortunes, Valerio loves, enjoys the dame he loves. I love, and never can enjoy the sight of her I love. So far from conquering in my desire's assault that I can come, I, to lay no battery to the fort I seek. All passages to it so strongly kept by straight guard of a father.
I dare swear, if just desert in love measured reward, your fortune should exceed Valerio's far. For I am witness, being your bedfellow, both to the daily and the nightly service you do unto the deity of love in vows, sighs, tears, and solitary watches. He never serves him with such sacrifice. Yet hath his bow and shafts at his command. Love's service is much more like our humorous lords, where minions carry more than servitors. The bold and careless servant still obtains, the modest and respective nothing gains. You never see your love unless in dreams. He, Hymen, puts in whole possession. What different stars reigned when your loves were born. He forced to wear the willow, you the horn. But brother, Are you not ashamed to make yourself a slave to the base lord of love, begot of fancy and of beauty born? And what is beauty? A mere quintessence, whose life is not in being, but in seeming, and therefore is not to all eyes the same, but like a cozening picture, which one way shows like a crow, the other like a swan. And upon what ground is this beauty drawn? Upon a woman, a most brittle creature? Would to God, for my part, that were all.
But tell me, brother, did you never love?
You know I did, and was beloved again, and that of such a dame as all men deemed honoured, and made me happy in her favours. Exceeding fair she was not, and yet fair in that she never studied to be fairer than nature made her. Beauty cost her nothing. Her virtues were so rare they would have made an Ethiop beautiful, at least so thought by such as stood aloof and did observe her with credulous eyes. But what they were indeed I'll spare to blaze, because I loved her once. Only I found her such as for her sake I vow eternal wars against her, their whole sex, inconstant shuttlecocks, loving fools and jesters, men rich in dirt and titles, and sooner one with the most vile and the most virtuous, found true to none. If one among whole hundreds chance to be chaste, she is so proud withal, wayward and rude, that one of unchaste life is oftentimes approved a worthier wife. Undressed, sluttish, nasty to their husbands, sponged up, adorned and painted to their lovers, all day in ceaseless uproar with their households, if all the night their husbands have not pleased them, like hounds most kind, being beaten and abused, like wolves most cruel, being kindliest used.
Fie, thou profanest the deity of their sex.
Brother, I read that Egypt heretofore had temples of the richest frame on earth, much like this goodly edifice of women. With alabaster pillars were those temples, and beautified, and so are women. Most curiously glazed, and so are women. Cunningly painted too, and so are women. In outside, wondrous heavenly, and so are women. When a stranger viewed those fanes within, instead of gods and goddesses, he should find a painted fowl, a fury, or a serpent. And such celestial inner parts have women.
Rinaldo, the poor fox that lost his tail persuaded others also to lose theirs. Thyself, for one perhaps that for desert or some defect in thy attempts refused thee, revilest the whole sex, beauty, love, and all. I tell thee, love is nature's second sun, causing a spring of virtues where he shines, and as without the sun, the world's great eye, all colours, beauties, both of art and nature, are given in vain to men. So, without love, all beauties bred in women are in vain, all virtues born in men lie buried. For love informs them, as the sun doth colours, and as the sun, reflecting his warm beams against the earth, begets all fruits and flowers, so love, fair shining in the inward man, brings forth in him the honourable fruits of valour, wit, virtue, and haughty thoughts, brave resolution, and divine discourse. Oh, 'tis the paradise, the heaven of earth. And didst thou know the comfort of two hearts in one delicious harmony united, as to joy one joy, and think both one thought, live both one life, and therein double life, to see their souls meet at an interview, in their bright eyes, at parley in their lips, their language kisses, and to observe the rest, touches, embraces, and each circumstance of all love's most unmatched ceremonies, thou wouldst abhor thy tongue for blasphemy. Oh, who can comprehend how sweet love tastes, but he that hath been present at his feasts?
Are you in that vein too, Valerio? To pity you should be about your charge, how plough and cart goes forward. I've known your joys were all employed in husbandry. Your study was how many loads of hay a meadow of so many acres yielded, how many oxen such a close with fat. Is your rural service now converted from Pan to Cupid and from beasts to women? Oh, if your father knew this, what a lecture of bitter castigation he would read you.
My father? Why, my father? Does he think to rob me of myself? I hope I know I am a gentleman, though his covetous humour and education hath transformed me bailey, and made me overseer of his pastures. I'll be myself in spite of husbandry.
Enter Gratiana.
And see, bright heaven, here comes my husbandry.
And he embraces her.
Here shall my cattle graze, here nectar drink, here will I hid hedge and ditch, here hide my treasure. Oh, poor Fortunio, how wouldst thou triumph if thou enjoyedst this happiness with my sister?
If I were in heaven, if once 'twere come to that.
Methinks 'tis my heaven that I'm past it. And should the wretched Machiavellian, the covetous knight, your father, see this sight, lusty Valerio?
Has foot, sir, if he should, he shall perceive ere long my skill extends to something more than sweaty husbandry.
I'll bear thee witness thou canst skill of dice, cards, tennis, wenching, dancing, and what not. And this is something more than husbandry. Thou art known in ordinaries and tobacco shops, trusted in taverns and in vaulting houses, and this is something more than husbandry. Yet all this while thy father apprehends thee for the most tame and thrifty groom in Europe.
Well, he hath ventured on a marriage would quite undo him. Did his father know it?
Know it? Alas, sir, where can he bestow this poor gentlewoman he hath made his wife? But his inquisitive father will hear of it. I who, like the dragon to the Hesperian fruit, is to his haunts, slight hence. The old knight comes.
And indeed, enter Gostanzo, and everybody runs away, apart from Rinaldo.
Rinaldo?
Who's that calls? What, Sir Gostanzo? How fares your knighthood, sir?
Say, who was that shrunk at my entry here? Was not your brother?
Oh, he shrunk not, sir. His business called him hence.
And was it not my son that went out with him?
I saw him not. I was in serious speech about a secret business with my brother.
Sure 'twas my son. What made he here? I sent him about affairs to be dispatched in haste.
Well, sir, lest silent breed unjust suspect, I'll tell a secret I am sworn to keep, and crave your honoured assistance in it.
What is, Rinaldo?
This, sir. 'Twas your son.
And what young gentlewoman graced their company?
Oh, thereon depends the secret I must utter. That gentlewoman hath my brother married.
Married? What is she?
Faith, sir, a gentlewoman, but her unnourishing dowry must be told out of her beauty.
Is it true, Rinaldo? Does your father understand so much?
That was the motion, sir. I was entreating your son to make to him, because I know he is well spoken and may much prevail in satisfying my father, who much loves him both for his wisdom and his husbandry.
Indeed, he's one can tell his tale, I tell you. And for his husbandry,
Oh, sir, had you heard what thrifty discipline he gave my brother for making choice without my father's knowledge and without riches, you would have admired him.
nay, I know him well. What was it?
That in the choice of wives, men must respect the chief wife, riches. That in every course, a man's chief lodestar should shine out of riches. Love nothing heartily in this world but riches. Cast off all friends, all studies, all delights, all honesty and religion for riches. And many such, which wisdom sure be learned of his experienced father. Yet my brother so soothes his rash affection and presumes so highly on my father's gentle nature, that he's resolved to bring her home to him, and like enough he will.
Like enough, your silly father, too, will put it up. An honest knight, but too much indulgent of his presuming children.
Oh, what a difference that interpose itself twixt him and you. Had your son used you thus?
My son? Alas, I hope to bring him up in other fashion. Follows my husbandry, sets early foot into the world. He comes not at the city, nor knows the city arts.
Dice and wenching.
Acquaints himself with no delight but getting. A perfect pattern of sobriety, temperance, and husbandry to all my household. And what's his company, I pray? Not wenches.
Wenches? I durst be sworn he never smelt a wench's breath yet. But methinks 'twere fit you sought him out a wife.
A wife, Rinaldo? He dares not look a woman in the face.
But hold him to one. Your son's such a sheep.
It is strange in earnest.
Well, sir, though for my thriftless brother's sake I little care how my wronged father takes it, yet for my father's quiet, if yourself would join hands with your wise and toward son, I shall deserve it some way.
Good, Rinaldo. I love you and your father. But this matter is not for me to deal in. It is needless. You say your brother is resolved, presuming your father will allow it.
Enter Marc Antonio.
See, my father, since you are resolute not to move him, sir, in any way conceal the secret by way of an atonement, let me pray you will.
On mine honour.
Thanks, sir.
And Rinaldo hides.
God save the Honourable Knight Gostanzo.
Oh, friend Marc Antonio, welcome. I think I have good news to welcome you withal.
You did say it, but it didn't come across. Try again.
He cannot hold, aside.
What news, I pray you, sir?
You have a forward, valiant, elder son. Wherein is his forwardness and valour?
I know not wherein you intend him so.
Forward before, valiant behind. His duty that he hath dared, before your due consent, to take a wife.
A wife, sir? What is she?
One that is rich enough, a hair pure amber, a forehead mother of pearl, her fair eyes, two wealthy diamanti, her lips mines of rubies, her teeth are orient pearl, her neck pure ivory.
It is just not good, sir, in an affair so serious. I love my son, and if his youth reward me with his contempt of my consent in marriage, 'tis to be feared that his presumption builds not of his good choice. It will bear itself out, and being bad, news is worse than bad.
What call you bad? Is it bad to be poor?
The world accounts it so, but if my son have in her birth and virtues held his choice without disparagement, the fault is less.
Such the wind there. Blows there so calm a gale from a condemned and deserved anger? Are you so easy to be disobeyed?
Should I do? If my enamoured son have been so forward, I assure myself he did it more to satisfy his love than to increase my hate or to neglect me.
A passing kind construction. Suffer this. You ope him doors to any villainy. He'll dare to sell, to pawn, run ever riot, despise your love in all, and laugh at. And that night's competency you've gotten with care and labour, he with lust, idleness, will bring into the stipend of a beggar, all to maintain a wanton whirligig, worth nothing more than she brings on her back. Yet all your wealth too little for that back. By heaven, I pity your declining state, for, be assured, your son hath set his foot in the right pathway to consumption, up to the heart in love, and for that love nothing can be too dear his love desires. How insatiate and unlimited is the ambition and the beggarly pride of a dame hoised from a beggar's state to a state competent and plentiful. You cannot be so simple not to know.
I must confess the mischief, but alas, where is in me the power of remedy?
Where? In your just displeasure. Cast him off. Receive him not. Let him endure the use of their enforced kindness that must trust him for meat and money, for apparel, house, and everything belongs to that estate which he must learn with want of misery, since pleasure and a full estate hath blinded his dissolute desires.
Oh, what should I do? If I should banish him my house and sight, what desperate resolution might it breed to run into the wars, and there to Live in want of competency, and perhaps taste the unrecoverable loss of his chief limbs, which, while he hath in peace at home with me, may with his spirit ransom his estate from any loss his marriage can procure.
It's true. Nay, let him run into the war and lose what limbs he can. Better one branch be lopped away, and the whole tree should perish. And for his faults, better young one than old. You have a younger son at Padua. I like his learning well. Make him your heir, and let the other walk. Let him buy wit at his own charge, not at his father's. You lose him, you lose no more than was lost before. If you recover him, you find a son.
I cannot part with him.
If it be so, and that your love to him be so extreme, in needful dangers ever choose the least. If he should be in mind to pass the seas, your son Rinaldo, who told me all this, will tell me that, and so we shall prevent it. If by no stern course you will venture that, let him come home to me with his fair wife, and if you chance to see him, shake him up, as if your wrath were hard to be reflected, that he may fear hereafter to offend and other dissolute courses. At my house, with my advice and my son's good example, we shall serve as a glass for him to see his faults, and mend them to his precedent, I make no doubt, but of a dissolute son and disobedient, to send him home both dutiful and thrifty.
Oh, Gostanzo, could you do this, you should preserve yourself a perfect friend of me, and me a son.
Remember you your part, fear not mine. Rate him, revile him, and renounce him too. Speak, can you do it, man?
I'll do all I can.
And exit Marc Antonio.
Alas, good man, how nature overweighs.
Rinaldo comes forth.
God save you, sir.
Rinaldo, all the news you told me as a secret, I perceive, is passing common. Your father knows it. The first thing he related was the marriage.
And was extremely moved.
Beyond all measure. But I did all I could to quench his fury, told him how easy 'twas for a young man to run that amorous course, and though his choice were nothing rich, yet she was gently born, well qualified and beautiful. But he still was quite relentless, and would needs renounce him.
My brother knows it well, and is resolved to trail a pike in the field rather than bide the more feared push of my vexed father's fury.
Indeed, that's one way. But there are no more means left to his fine wits than to incense his father with a more violent rage, and to redeem a greater offence with greater.
So I told him, but to a desperate mind all breath is lost.
Go to, let him be wise and use his friends, amongst whom I'll be foremost to his father. Without this desperate error he intends joined to the other, I'll not doubt to make him easy return unto his father's favour, so he submit himself, as duty binds him. For fathers will be known to be themselves, and often, when their angers are not deep, will paint an outward rage upon their looks.
All this I told him, sir, but what says he? I know my father will not be reclaimed. He'll think that if he wink at this offence, 'twill open doors to any villainy. I'll dare to sell, to pawn, and run all riot, to laugh at all his patience, and consume all he hath purchased to an honoured purpose in maintenance of a wanton whirligig worth nothing more than she wears on her back.
These words I used to incense his father. But good Rinaldo, let him be advised. How would his father grieve should he be maimed, or quite miscarry in the ruthless war?
I told him so, but better far, said he, one branch should utterly be lopped away than the whole tree of all his race should perish, and for his wants better young want than eld.
Ever the same words I used to his father. What comes this about? Well, good Rinaldo, if he dare not endure his father's looks, let him and his fair wife come home to me, till I have qualified his father's passion. He shall be kindly welcome, and be sure of all the intercession I can use.
I thank you, sir. I'll try what I can do, although I fear me I shall strive in vain.
Well, try him. Try him.
Exit Gostanzo.
Thanks, sir, so I will. See this old politic dissembling knight? Now he perceives my father so affectionate, and that my brother may hereafter live by him and his with equal use of either. He will put on a face of hollow friendship, but this will prove an excellent ground to sow the seed of mirth amongst us. I'll go seek Valerio and my brother, and tell them such news of their affairs as they'll admire.
And exit Rinaldo. So a lengthy scene setting up business, some motivations, some things we're not quite sure necessarily why they're happening. But the basic setup is, I love this person, and we're married. I love this person, I can't get to them, and I hate everyone. So three chaps. One who didn't exactly endear him to us by just being quite frightful for 5 minutes. But maybe he'll have a great redemption arc, and he'll come round, and that'll all be fine. And then I say the older generation sort of gets involved, and it all gets a little more confused as to motivations and things. But yeah, apart from the sort of structural problem of making us dislike one of the central characters straight away. I'm mostly feeling editing is required here. It's a little long, but the basic setup's sort of fine. It just needs to get to it quicker. I'll go to Susan, then Lois, then Alan.
I'm interested in that he loves using this word lopped. There's a lot about chopping off limbs, and it reminded me of that. I had a limb corrupted as an ulcer, but I have cut it off, and all that. Why is that? I mean, and it's also coats of arms. It's making me feel a little bit sick. Maybe I haven't had enough lunch or something, but there seems to be an awful lot of limbs flying around. And what does it mean when he talks about the pike in the field? He's just trailing the pike in the field. What does that mean?
It's a weapon.
Yeah, but when you trail your pike,
I know it's a weapon.
Yeah,
but it's being trailed. In other words, he's happy to be the second son.
Yeah, so we've had this in Georgia Green. This whole thing about trailing the pike is to say you're not going to be using it as a weapon.
Okay.
So that's sort.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I've learned something.
Yeah, it's like you're either a captive and you're trailing your pike in a kind of triumphal ceremony or something. Lois, I bet you know about this, about the tradition of trailing a pike and what the significance of that is.
I always thought it was figurative for going to war. I mean, that's what they're talking about. If the father rejects his son and he's not going to get any maintenance from his father, then the only thing to do is go to the wars and hope he can get somebody there, or else.
Maybe it was the other way around in George Green. Trailing the pike was a sign of I'm going to attack you. So I forget how it played out in that play, because that's the only place I've come across it.
But never has lopped been such an emotive word.
Lois, then Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I think although Rinaldo obviously makes a terrible impression with that torrent of misogyny at the beginning, he is actually trying to help these two guys, because I mean, the main point of this elaborate thing he's doing with Gostanzo is he's confusing the two brothers. I mean, he's saying that Gostanzo's son, who is actually the one who is married and who is the wild guy, has been totally sober and has been trying to discipline the other son, who in fact is the one who doesn't live near his mistress and can't get anywhere near her. And so it's a whole plot to get Gostanzo to take the two people who want to be together into his house. I mean, it's so he is actually trying to help them.
And that's sort of the problem with the way the play develops. I mean, it might be a bit clearer on stage, but it's an awful lot of talking, and you have to remember who's who. And it's actually quite difficult when they haven't interacted with each other, so that you automatically know that this is this person's older relative and this is this person's, and the familiar relationships. You sort of, so it isn't actually awfully clear. For as as both a listener and a viewer. I don't think even in staging that's actually something the terror of the dumb show is coming up, to make sure you can tell who's who before we start. Back to
Never.
Lois.
Yeah, well, the one thing that would help people, I mean, which helped me, is that this is, in fact, all stolen from a play called The Brothers by Plautus, I think. I think it's Plautus, not Terence. And so if, you know, that there are these two brothers, and basically that one is, well, anyway, that their parents have the wrong idea about each of them. And so there's an elaborate deception going on here.
Alan.
Too many words, Mr. Mozart.
Yes, far too many. Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it needs not a scalpel; it needs a felling axe.
I don't know if it needs a felling. It definitely needs a trim.
Verbiage.
It definitely needs a trim. There is a density to the language which isn't helping. When, you know, this is presumably set up for a comedy, therefore a bit of lightness of touch will be helpful. Simon.
For all that, obviously, it's very verbose. I will say this: at least the characters, I think, are quite well defined. We object to Rinaldo immediately, but that's pretty much a bit of a gift if you are seeing it, which I think maybe it would be, you could see this and make more sense of it, I feel, than maybe read it, just because there's quite a lot of information. Even the setting up of the father figure, it's a really, really good build up to what this person is going to be like. So I think that actually, yes, it's very long, but I think that's an asset at least.
Yeah, and I think that there's that initial exchange between the three. I mean, if we can recast Rinaldo as more a misanthrope than a misogynist, you know, just go, you people in love, I hate everything, then that might work a little bit better. But those three together at the initial of just going, I'm in love, oh, boo-hoo, was quite nicely drawn. I liked that. It's just to say, there was then too much of the elaboration of the point, and I think that's just blue pencil, and you've got a scene that functions perfectly well. Very briefly now, Susan.
Well, Gratiana comes on and she doesn't say a sodding thing, and all these men going on and on and on, and are they lusting about her? Well, I mean, if I was offered that part, I'd go, well, I want to come on and I want a proper Salome dance or something. I mean, thank you very much. I've never, ever read a part that it says your character enters and she says not one word.
You will get some lines in the next scene.
Refer to my agent.
Yes, you will get some scenes. But yes, it is quite odd, isn't it? I also just love the way the father comes in and they all run away. It's just like, oh, no, we're not doing this. So I quite enjoyed that. Lynn, then Lois?
Yeah, that is weird, because since it's a boys' company, it's not like, oh well, this apprentice can't really act yet, so we won't give him any lines. They're all kids, so yeah, it's weird. So I was just gonna get back and say I completely missed the fact that Rinaldo lied to Gostanzo about which brother was married. I completely missed that, and I don't know whether that was my inattention or whether that's a big risk that we have in production, is that we don't know that Rinaldo is the one that's manipulating the situation, and he knows Gostanzo's a shit and gonna do the opposite of what he's been asked to do. So yeah, how do you make it clear when you're talking about offstage characters that which one we're talking about?
Yes, because that is the problem. Is the information is all there, but it's not necessarily coming across. Lois, did you have?
Well, I think that's one reason actually why Gratiana or the girl appears, because it sort of links her with the right partner, which might help, and also it motivates Gostanzo asking, who is that woman, so that can get going. But I mean, in fact, it looks as if the women are going to get a fair amount to say, but in classical drama, as you know, they get practically nothing. I mean, the female roles are tiny, so that's partly what's going on as well.
Yes, voices off and in the other room and referred to. But yes, indeed, Act 1, Scene 2, if indeed it is technically a separate scene, we do get the men have all buggered off and enter Gazetta, Bellanora and Gratiana.
How happy are your fortunes above mine, both still being wooed and courted, still so feeding on the delights of love that still you find an appetite to more, where I am cloyed, and being bound to love sports, care not for them.
That is your fault, Gazetta. We have loves and and wish continual company with them in honored marriage rites, which you enjoy. But seldom or never can we get a look of those we love. Fortunio, my dear choice, lo, dare not be known to love me, nor come near my father's house, where I, as in a prison, consume my lost days and the tedious nights, my father guarding me for one I hate. And Gratiana here, my brother's love, joys by him so much stealth that vehement fear drinks up the sweetness of their stolen delights, where you enjoy a husband, and may freely perform all obsequies you desire to love.
Indeed, I have a husband, and his love is more than I desire, being vainly jealous. Extremes, though contrary, have the like effects. Extreme heat mortifies like extreme cold. Extreme love breeds satiety as well as extreme hatred, and too violent rigor tempts chastity as much as too much license. There's no man's eye fixed on me but doth pierce my husband's soul. If any ask my welfare, he straight doubts treason practiced to his bed, fancies but to himself all likelihoods of my wrong to him, and lays all on me for certain truths, yet seeks he with his best to put disguise on all his jealousy, fearing perhaps lest it may teach me that which otherwise I should not dream upon. Yet lives he still abroad at great expense, turns merely gallant from his father's state, uses all games and recreations, runs races with the gallants of the court, feasts them at home, and entertains them costly, and then upbraids me with their company.
Enter Cornelio.
See, we shall be troubled with him now.
Now, ladies, what plots have we now in hand? They say when only one dame is alone, she plots some mischief, but if three together, they plot 300. Wife, the air is sharp. You'd best to take the house, lest you take cold.
Alas, this time of year yields no such danger.
Go in, I say. A friend of yours attends you.
He is of your bringing and may stay.
Nay, stand not shopping logic. In, I pray.
You see, gentlewomen, what my happiness is? These humours reign in marriage. Humours.
Exit Gazetta. Cornelio followeth.
Now, by my troth, I am no fortune teller, but would be loath to prove so. Yet pronounce that at adventure, that 'twere indecorum this heifer should want horns.
I on this love, I rather wish to want than purchase so.
Indeed, such love is like a smoky fire in a cold morning. Though the fire be cheerful, yet is the smoke so sour and cumbersome, 'twere better to lose the fire than find the smoke. Such an attendant, then, is smoke to fire, is jealousy to love. Better want both than have both.
Enter Valerio and Fortunio.
Come, Fortunio, now take hold on this occasion as myself on this. One couple more would make a barley break.
I fear, Valerio, we shall break too soon. Your father's jealous espial will displease us.
Well, wench, the day will come, his Argus eyes will shut, and thou shalt open. Soot, I think Dame Nature's memory begins to fail her. If I write but my name in Mercer's books, I'm as sure to have at 6 months' end a rascal at my elbow with his mace, as I am sure my father's not far hence. My father yet hath owed Dame Nature debt these 80 years and 10, yet calls not on him. But if she turn her debt book over once, and finding him her debtor, do but send her Sergeant John Death to arrest his body, our souls shall rest, wench, then, and the free light shall triumph in our faces, where now night, in imitation of my father's frowns, lowers at our meeting.
Enter Rinaldo.
See where the scholar comes.
Down on your knees, poor lovers, reverence learning.
I pray thee, why, Rinaldo?
Marc, what cause flows from my depth of knowledge to your love, to make you kneel and bless me while you live?
I pray thee, good scholar, give us cause.
Marc, then, erect your ears. You know what horror would fly on your love from your grounds, if he should know it. And your sister here, my brother's sweetheart, knows as well what rage would seize his powers for her, if he should know my brother wooed her, or that she loved him. Is not this true? Speak all.
This is true.
It is as true that now you meet by stealth in depth of midnight, kissing out at grates, climb over walls, and all this I'll reform.
By logic?
Well, sir, you shall have all means to live in one house, eat and drink together, meet and kiss your fills.
All this by learning?
Aye, and your frowning father knows all this.
I marry, small learning may prove that.
Nay, he shall know it and desire it too. Welcome my brother to him and your wife, entreating both to come and dwell with him. Is not this strange?
Aye, too strange to be true.
'Tis in this head shall work it, therefore hear. Brother, this lady you must call your wife, for I have told her sweetheart's father here that she is your wife, and because my father, who now believes it, must be quieted before you see him, you must live a while as husband to her in his father's house. Valerio, here's a simple mean for you to lie at rack and manger with your wedlock, and brother, for yourself to meet as freely with this your long-desired and barred love.
You make us wonder.
Peace, be ruled by me, and you shall see to what a perfect shape I'll bring this rude plot, which blind chance, the ape of counsel and advice, hath brought forth blind. Valerio, can your heat of love forbear before your father, and allow my brother to use some kindness to your wife before him?
Before him I do not greatly care, nor anywhere indeed. My sister here shall be my spy. If she will wrong herself and give her right to my wife, I am pleased.
My dearest life, I know will never fear any such will or thought in all my powers. When I court her, then I think 'tis thee. When I embrace her, hold thee in mine arms. Come, let us practice 'gainst we see your father.
Soft, sir, I hope you need not do it yet. Let me take this time.
Come, you must not touch her.
No, not before my father.
No, nor now, because you are so soon to practice it, and for I must bring them to him presently. Take her, Fortunio. Go hence, man and wife. We will attend you rarely with fixed faces. Valerio, keep your countenance and confirm your father in your forged sheepishness. Methinks thou darest not look upon a wench, nor knowest at which end to begin to kiss her.
And exit, end of Act 1. Let's trim some candles. Okay. I can't see this plan going wrong at all. I can't see any problems with this plan. I did quite like that scene. The advantage of this scene is it does elaborate on the problems we were having in the previous scene, in the sense that here are the people who need to be maneuvered here. So they're demonstrating with physical bodies this thing that was intellectually explained to us earlier. So in that sense, by the end of the first act, hopefully, actually, the plot is now seeded largely in everybody's minds, if not fully elaborated upon in places, but the general gist. And yeah, some complications that might go wrong. Just partner swapping, even for effect. That might not go down well, especially as didn't someone talk about some issues of jealousy? So anyway, Donald.
I was going to say, we also learned that Rinaldo is a scholar. Whether that's intended as an insult, I'm not sure, but that's the first reference we've had to that. I mean, we know he's a misogynist and not a very nice person, but whether the two are connected, I have no idea. But it does. Is it intended as an insult?
I get the impression that he's the kind of person who's not interested in those worldly pleasures. He's more he's more intellectual than that. Look, I've read a book. Whether he's a proper scholar is another question. Aliki, then Lois.
I think he was referred to as being at university in Padua. earlier.
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
him.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lois.
Yeah, I mean, there is a tradition in a lot of the sort of jests of the period of scholars being also kind of jester figures. I mean, using their cleverness to plot against people, and I think that's what's going on here. I also think actually one could play all of that misogyny as kind of comic. I mean, just I was in love with this one woman, it didn't work out, so women are blah 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 blah. I mean, it especially as these are all kids anyway playing these parts.
Yeah,
Yes.
it does feel rather like Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock. This is just look, I'm terribly, I don't care about all these things. I'm, and you're supposed to find him terribly charming, and he's mostly very smug. Simon.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say. That word comic, it obviously played at full pelt. You could see that, although yes, it's long. I think that you could probably, by eliminating a lot of the natural pauses that we would put in reading, with proper performance, pace, and entrance, exits, all sorts of chaos, it could be quite fun actually, even without the need of the blue pencil, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think the template here is fine. I think the comic situation makes sense and it functions. And I think there's an element of we need to actually just get on top of the text in more ways than one. So with that, I think you can give this a decent kick up the arse. Talking about kick up the arse, let's go into Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1. There isn't a Scene 2. Enter Gostanzo and Marc Antonio.
'Tis your own too simple lenity and doting indulgence shown to him still, that thus hath taught your son to be no son. As you have used him, therefore, so you have him. Durst my son thus turn rebel to his duty, steal up a match unsuiting his estate, without all knowledge of friend or father, and to make that good with worse offence, resolve to run beyond sea to the wars? Durst my son serve me thus? Well, I've stayed him, and much against my disposition, and this hour I have set for his repair with his young mistress and concealed wife. And in my house here they shall sojourn both, till your black anger storm be overblown.
My anger's storm. Ah, poor Fortunio. One gentle word from thee would soon resolve the storm of my rage to a shower of tears.
In that vein still? Well, Marc Antonio, our old acquaintance and long neighbourhood, ties my affection to you and the good of your whole house, in kind regard whereof I have advised you, for your credit's sake, and for the tender welfare of your son, to frown on him a little. If you do not, but at first parley take him to your favour, I protest utterly to renounce all care of you and yours and all your amities. They say he's wretched, that out of himself cannot draw counsel to his proper will. But he's thrice wretched, that has neither counsel within himself, nor apprehension of counsel for his own good from another.
Well, I will arm myself against this weakness the best I can. I long to see this Helen that hath enchanted my young Barris thus, and like to set all our poor Troy on fire.
Enter Valerio with a page.
Here comes my son. Withdraw, take up your stand. You shall hear odds betwixt your son and mine.
Marc Antonio retires himself.
Tell him I cannot do it. Shall I be made a foolish novice, my purse set abroach by every cheating come-you-7, to lend my money and be laughed at? Tell him plain, I profess husbandry, and will not play the prodigal like him gainst my profession.
It's a son.
An admirable spark.
Well, sir, I'll tell him so.
Exit page.
Svart, let him lead a better husband's life, and not live idly, spending his time, his coin, and self on wenches.
Why, what's the matter, son?
Cry mercy, sir. Why, there come messengers from this and that brave gallant, and such gallants as I profess I saw but through a grate.
And what's this message?
Oh, faith, sir, he's disappointed of payments and disfurnished of means present, If I would do him the kind office, therefore, to trust him but some 7 night, with the keeping of 40 crowns for me, he deeply swears, as he's a gentleman, to discharge his trust, and that I shall eternally endear him to my wished service. He protests and contests.
How good words, Valerio, but thou art too wise to be deceived by breath. I'll turn thee loose to the most cunning cheater of them all.
Svud, he's not ashamed, besides, to charge me with a late promise. I must yield, indeed, I did, to shift him with some contentment make such a frivol promise.
Aye, well done. Promises are no fetters. With that tongue thy promise past, unpromise it again. Wherefore has a man a tongue of power to speak, but to speak still to his own private purpose? Beasts utter but one sound, but men have change of speech and reason, even by nature given them, now to say one thing, and another now, as best may serve their profitable ends.
Our lady, sound instructions to a son.
Nay, sir, he makes his claim by debt of friendship.
Oh, tush, friendship's but a term, boy. Fond word, like to a doting mother, glazes over her children's imperfections with fine terms. What she calls friendship and true human kindness is only want of true experience. Honesty is but a defect of wit, respect but mere rusticity and clownery.
Better and better. Soft. Here comes my son.
Enter Fortunio, Rinaldo, and Gratiana.
Fortunio, keep your countenance. See, sir, here the poor young married couple, which you please to send to your house.
Ah, Fortunio, welcome. And in that welcome I employ your wives, who I'm sure you count your second self.
He
Sir.
kisses her.
Sir, your right noble favours do exceed all power of worthy gratitude by words, that in your care supply my father's place.
Fortunio, I cannot choose but love you, being son to him who long time I have loved, from whose just anger my house shall protect you, till I have made a calm way to your meetings.
I little thought, sir, that my father's love would take so ill, so slight a fault as this.
Call you slight? Nay, though his spirit take it in higher manner than for your loved sake, I would have wished him, yet I make a doubt. Had my son done the like, if my affection would not have turned to more spleen than your father's, and yet I qualify him all I can, and doubt not but that time and my persuasion will work out your excuse, since youth and love were the unresisted organs to seduce you. But you must give him leave, for fathers must be won by penitence and submission, and not by force or opposition.
Alas, sir, what advise you me to do? I know my father to be highly moved, and am not able to endure the breath of his expressed displeasure, whose hot flames I think my absence soonest would have quenched.
True, sir, as fire with oil, or else like them, has quenched the fire with pulling down the house. You shall remain here in my house concealed, till I have won your father to conceive a kinder opinion of your oversight. Valerio, entertain Fortunio and his fair wife, and give them conduct in.
You're welcome, sir.
What, sirrah, is that all? No entertainment to the gentlewoman?
Forsooth, you're welcome, by my father's leave.
What, no more compliment? Kiss her, you sheep's head. Why? Well, go, sir, call your sister hither.
Exit Valerio.
Lady, your partner grows springing up. We dwell far off from court, you may perceive. The sight of such a blazing star as you dazzles my rude son's wits.
Not so, good sir. The better husband that more courtly ever.
Rinaldo?
Indeed, a courtier makes his lips go far, as he doth all things else.
Enter Valerio and Bellanora.
Daughter, receive this gentlewoman home, and use her kindly.
She kisses her.
My father bids you kindly welcome, lady, and therefore you must needs come well to me.
Thank you, forsooth.
Go, dame, conduct him in.
And exeunt Rinaldo, Fortunio, Bellanora, and Gratiana.
sheep said, hast thou lived thus long, and darest not look a woman in the face? Though I desire especially to see my son a husband, shall I therefore have him turn absolute cullion? Let's see. Kiss thy hand. Kiss thy hand. Kiss thy mouth by the mass. Fie on me, clown. They say the world's grown finer. I, for my part, never saw young men worse fashioned and brought up than nowadays. But when myself was young, was I not kept as far from court as you? I think I was. And yet my father on the time invited the Duchess of this house, I being then about some 25 years of age, was thought the only man to entertain her. I had my congee, passed myself on one leg, draw back the t'other with a deep vexed honour, then with a bel regard upon mine eye, with boldness on her very visionary, your dancers all were counterfeits to me, and for discourse in my fair mistress' presence, I did not, as you barren gallants do, fill my discourses up drinking tobacco, but on the present furnished evermore with tales and practised speeches, for sometimes, what is't, clock? What stuff's this petticoat? What cost the making? The fringe and all? And what had she under her petticoat? And such like witty compliments. And for need, I could have as written as good prose and verse, even as the most beggarly poet of them all. Either acrostic, exordium, epsalmins, satires, epigrams, sonnets in dozens, or your quatrains, any rhyme, masculine, feminine, or scrudola, blank verse. Bench whistlers nowadays to them that were in our times. Well, about your husbandry, go, for a faith, fit for nothing else.
And exit Valerio. Marc comes forward.
Our lady, you have played the courtier rarely.
Did you ever see so blank a fool, when he should kiss a wench as my son is?
Alas, 'tis but a little bashfulness. You let him keep no company, nor allow him money to spend at fence and dancing schools. You are too severe in faith.
And you too subtle. Well, sir, for your sake I've stayed your son from flying to the wars. Now see you rate him, to stay him yet from more expenseful courses, wherein your lenity will encourage him.
Let me alone. I thank you for this kindness.
And exit. This isn't technically really the end of the scene, but it's a good way of breaking up the flow. So we have the situation expanded upon. In my day, you know, we kissed each other all the time, you young people. What's wrong with you? Go on, more tongues. Lynn, then Aliki.
Yeah, it helps to know, thank you, Lois, that this is based on a classical precedent, because I think it helps the characters come into focus. Gostanzo is like he's the ridiculous Senex, you know. Not only is he grouchy and miserly and loveless and condescending and you know, but he's also like, he's a liar. Like, oh yeah, I was so charming in my day. I was the only man. Yeah, right. So he's a liar. He's a braggart. So I think you could actually have a lot of fun with that character now that we've seen a little more about him. That he's really just ridiculous and kind of a terrible person in a hilarious way.
Yeah, and I think that we're starting to see that there is real scope for playing here, and that these situations, there's a lot of stuff physically happening in this scene potentially, where actors can figure out business about over here and looking and thing, and do we do this now, and who's doing what now? I think there's actually a lot of play there around the dialogue as well as with it. Aliki.
I just want to admire the wit of asking a woman what she's got on under her petticoat. Flirtation, 100% there.
Yes, subtle. Those subtle little nuances to his dialogue there. Susan and then Lois.
I'm afraid I think when there's no lines, it's a temptation to an actor to invent something. I for some reason, I imagine myself walking on and lying as if on a chaise longue in the middle of the stage, just looking beautiful or something, doing something outrageous. Because where's the bloody storyline for this woman?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that this is one of the younger members of the boys' troupe who and it's starting to feel more like the younger, so that you don't get that much dialogue, but you get a reasonable amount of stage time. I mean, not as low down as the page who just comes on and says, line and then goes away again. But it does have that feel.
Of performance has come upon me. Might do something naughty.
Yeah. I mean, all the young people in this scene are putting on an act. I mean, Valerio's pretending to be this hardworking, miserly, the sort of the apple of his father's eye, and all the other people are pretending they don't know each other.
Even Bellanora's like, "Oh, nice to meet you," and they've already talked.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do something with a rosary for that character or something. Oh, it's terrible. But...
Right, let's dive on to the next sequence. Split here into Act 2, Scene 2, but effectively it's a sort of semi-continuous action. Enter Valerio and Rinaldo.
Oh, are they gone? Now tell me, brave Valerio, have I not won the wreath from all your wits, brought thee to enjoy the most desired presence of thy dear love at home, and with one labour, my brother, to enjoy thy sister, where it had been her undoing to have him seen, and made thy father crave what he abhors, to entreat my brother home to enjoy his daughter. Command thee kiss thy wench, chide for not kissing, and worked all this out of a Machiavel, a miserable politician. I think the like was never played before.
Indeed, I must commend thy wit of force, and yet I know not whose deserves most praise, of thine or my wit. Thine for plotting well, mine that durst undertake and carry it with such true form.
Well, the evening crowns the day. Persever to the end, my wit hath put blind fortune in a string into your hand. Use it discreetly. Keep it from your father, or you may bid all your good days good night.
Let me alone, boy.
Well, so, now, to vary the pleasures of our wits. Thou knowest, Valeria, here is the new-turned gentleman's fair wife that keeps thy wife and sister company, with whom the amorous courtier Dariotto is far in love, and of whom her sour husband is passing jealous, puts on eagle's eyes to pry into her carriage. Shall we see if he be now from home, and visit her?
Enter Gazetta sewing, Cornelio following.
See, the prisoner comes.
But soft, sir, see her jealous jailer follows at her heels. Come, we will watch some fitter time to board her, and in the meantime seek out our mad crew. My spirit longs to swagger.
Go to, youth. Walk not too boldly. If the sergeants meet you, you may have swaggering work your belly full.
No better copes, mates.
Gazetta sits and sings, sewing.
I'll go seek 'em out with this light in my hand. The slaves go proud with seeking out of us.
Exeunt Valerio and Rinaldo.
Pretty work. I pray, what flowers are these?
The pansy, this?
Oh, that's for lovers' thoughts. What's that? A columbine?
No, that thankless flower sits not in my garden.
Yet it may mine. This were a pretty present for some friend, some gallant courtier, as for Dariotto, one that adores you in his soul, I know.
Me? Why me more than yourself, I pray?
Oh, yes, he adores you, and adores me. If faith deal plainly, do not his kisses relish much better than such peasants as I am.
Whose kisses?
Dariotto's. Does he not the thing you won't on?
What thing, good Lord?
Why, lady, lie with you.
Lie with me.
I with you.
You with me, indeed.
Nay, I am told that he lies with you too, and that he is the only whoremaster about the city.
If he be so only, 'tis good hearing there are no more.
Well, mistress, well, I will not be abused. Think not you dance in nets, for though you do not make broad profession of your love to him, yet do I understand your darkest language, your treads of the toe, your secret jogs and rings, your intercourse of glances, every tittle of your close amorous rites I understand. They speak as loud to me as if you said, "My dearest Dariotto, I am thine."
Yes, what moods are these? Did ever husband follow his wife with jealousy so unjust? That once I loved you, you yourself will swear, and if I did, where did you lose my love? Indeed, this strange and undeserved usage hath power to shake a heart were ne'er so settled, but I protest, all your unkindness never had strength to make me wrong you, but in thought.
No, not with Dariotto?
No, by heaven.
No letters passed, no designs for meeting?
No, by my hope of heaven.
Well, no time passed. Go in and sew.
Well, be it so.
Exit Gazetta.
Suspicion is, they say, the first degree of deepest wisdom, and however others inveigh against this mood of jealousy, for my part I suppose it is the best curb to check the wrangling appetites that reign in this weak sex. My neighbours point at me for this my jealousy, but should I do as most of them do, let my wife fly out to feasts and revels and invite home gallants, play Menelaus, give them time and place, while I sit like a well-taught waiting woman, turning her eyes upon some work or picture read in a book, or take a feigned nap, while her kind lady takes one to her lap. No, let me still be pointed at, and thought a jealous, and not a wittily knave. I have a crew of courtiers haunt my house, in show, my friends, and for my profit too. But I perceive 'em, and will mock their aims with looking to their mark. I warrant 'em, I am content to ride abroad with them, to revel, dice, and fit their other sports. But by their leaves I'll have a vigilant eye to the main chance still. See, my brave comrades.
Enter Dariotto and Page, Claudio and Valerio. Valerio putting up his sword.
Well. Wilt thou still deceive thy father? Being so simple a poor soul before him, turned swaggerer in all companies besides.
Hadst thou been rested, all would have come forth.
Ah, soft, sir, there lies the point. I do not doubt but to have my pennyworths of these rascals one day. I'll smoke the buzzing hornets from their nests, or else I'll make their leather jerkins stay the horse and hungry horse flies. But a man cannot so soon, for want of almanacs, forget his day, but 3 or 4 bare months. But straight he sees a sort of corporals to lie in ambuscado to surprise him.
Well, thou hadst happy fortune to escape.
But they thought theirs was happier to escape me. I, walking in this place, where men's lawsuits are heard and pleaded, not so much as dreaming of any such encounter, steps me forth their valiant foreman, with the word, "I rest you." I made no more ado, but laid these paws close on his shoulders, tumbling him to earth, and there sat he on his posteriors like a baboon, and, turning me about, I straight espied the whole troop issuing on me. I stepped me back, and drawing my old friend here, made to the midst of them, and all unable to endure the shock, all rudely fell in rout, and down the stairs they ran with such a fury as, meeting with a troop of lawyers there, manned by their clients, some with 10, some with 20, some 5, some 3, he that had least had 1, upon the stairs they bore them down afore them. But such a rattling then was there amongst them of ravished declarations, replications, rejoinders, and petitions, all their books and writings torn and trod on, and some lost, that the poor lawyers, coming to the bar, could say naught to the matter, but instead were fain to rail and talk besides their books, without all order.
Faith, that same virile railing become now most applausive. Your best poet is he that rails grossest.
True, and your best fool is your broad railing fool.
And why not, sir? For by the gods, to tell the naked truth, what object see men in this world but such as would yield matter to a railing humour? When he that last year carried after one an empty buckram bag, now fills a coach, and crowds the Senate with such troops of clients and servile followers as would put a mad spleen into a pigeon.
Yeah, pray leave these cross capers. Let's make some better use of precious time. See, here's Cornelio. Come, lad, shall we to dice?
Anything, aye.
Well said. How does thy wife?
In health, God save her.
But where is she, man?
Abroad about her business.
Why, not at home? Svart, my masters, take her to the court, and this rare lad, her husband, and dost hear? Play me no more the miserable farmer, but be advised by friends, sell all in the country, be a flat courtier, follow some great man, or bring thy wife there, and she'll make thee great.
What? To the court? Then take me for a gull.
Nay, never shun it to be called a gull, for I see all the world is but a gull, one man gull to another in all kinds. A merchant to a courtier is a gull, a client to a lawyer is a gull, a married man to a bachelor, a gull, a bachelor to a cuckold is a gull, all to a poet, or a poet to himself.
Dariotto, shall we gull this guller?
Ow's his father, man, we cannot gull him.
Let me alone. Of all man's wits alive, I most admire Valerio's, that hath stolen by his mere industry, and that by spurts, such qualities as no wit else can match, with plodding at perfection every hour, which, if his father knew each gift he has, were like enough to make him give all from him. I mean, besides his dicing and his wenching, he has stolen languages, the Italian, Spanish, and some spice of the French, besides his dancing, singing, playing on choice instruments. These has he got almost against the hair.
But hast thou stolen all these, Valerio?
Oh, toys, a pox. And yet they be such toys as every gentleman would not be without.
Vainglory makes you judge him, light of face.
Oh, heaven, I was much deceived in him. He's the man indeed, hides his gifts, and sets them not to sale in every presence. I would have sworn his soul were far from music, and that all his choice music was to hear his fat beasts bellow.
Sir, your ignorance shall it soon be confuted. Prithee, Val, take thy theirbo for my sake a little.
Oh, by heaven, this month I touched not a theorbo.
Touched a theorbo? Mark the very word. Sirrah, go fetch.
Exit page.
If you will have it, I must needs confess I am no husband of my qualities. That's a stage direction.
The uncrosses and capers.
See what a caper there was.
See again.
The best that ever. How it becomes him.
But that his father saw these qualities.
Enter a page with an instrument. Sorry, I was muted.
Nay, that's the very wonder of his wits to carry all without his father's knowledge.
Why, we might tell him now.
No, but we could not, although we think we could. His wit doth charm us. Come, sweet Val, touch and sing.
What? Will you hear the worst voice in Italy?
Enter Rinaldo.
Oh, God, sir, he sings, courtiers. How you like this?
Believe it, excellent.
Is it not natural?
If my father heard me, sfoot, he'd renounce me for his natural son.
By heaven, Valerio, and I were thy father, and loved good qualities as I do my life, I disinherit thee, for I never heard dog howl with worse grace.
No, too, Senor Courtier, you deal not courtly now to be so plain, nor nobly to discourage a young gentleman in virtuous qualities that has but stolen him.
Call you this touching a turbo?
And everyone exits apart from Valerio and Rinaldo.
Oh, now, what's here?
Zoons, the plot laid the goal thee. Could thy wit think thy voice was worth the hearing? This was the courtiers and the cuckold project.
Ernestine, so. 'Tis very well, Master Courtier and Dan Cornuto. I'll cry quit with both. And first, I'll cast a jar betwixt them both, with firing the poor cuckold's jealousy. I have a tale will make him mad, and turn his wife divorced loose amongst us. But first let's home and entertain my wife. Oh, father, pardon, I was born to gull thee.
And they exit, and that is the end of the second act. Ooh. And I am just stepping in for Rob while he's temporarily away. The plot thickens. Thoughts from the room, please. Lynn.
I know Cornelio's jealousy is meant to be funny, but it doesn't age very well. At all. He's an abuser and a manipulator, and yeah, it's making that funny is going to be some work.
Well, everybody makes fun of somebody else. I mean, that seems to be the point, that they're all fools, they're all fooling, and they're all being fooled.
Simon.
Yeah, I just picking up on what Lynn says. I think with things like this, you have to kind of go big or go home with it. With you know what I mean. With anything that's contentious now. I'm going to draw a very strange allegory, but I was reading an interview with Ben Stiller today about would Tropic Thunder even be made now, even though quite clearly they were actually sending up tropes of method acting. People just look at the face value, and I think with something like this, we've had many discussions on this forum over the years about do you still include those things that we know are contentious now, and I feel very much you do, but it's how you portray it, I think, and quite clearly something as objectionable as that controlling jealousy coercion. You have to give it full gusto to kind of expose the ridiculousness of it, in my opinion.
And with that, I can hand back over to Robert Crighton.
Yes. Okay. Any more? Otherwise, we're going to dive into Act 3 and see where it takes us. Act 3. Scene 1, I see no one waving. Enter Fortunio, Bellanora, Gratiana, Gostanzo following closely.
How happy am I that by this sweet means I gain access to your most loved sight, and therewithal to utter my full love, which, but for vent, would burn my entrails up.
They talk too softly.
Little thinks the austere mind of my thrifty father, that I am vowed to you, and so am bound from him, who for more riches he would force on my disliking fancy.
'Tis no fault with just deeds to defraud an injury.
Daughter is persuading him to yield in dutiful submission to his father.
Enter Valerio.
Do I not dream? Do I behold this sight with waking eyes? Or from the ivory gate hath Morpheus sent a vision to delude me? Is't possible that I, a mortal man, should shrine within mine arms so bright a goddess, the fair Gratiana, beauty's little world.
What have we here?
My dearest mine of gold, all this that thy white arms enfold, account it as thy own freehold.
Gods, my dear soul, what sudden change is here? I smell how this gear will fall out, i' faith.
Fortunio, sister, come, let's to the garden.
Exeunt Valerio, Fortunio, Bellanora, Gratiana, leaving Gostanzo on.
Sits the wind there, i' faith. See what example will work upon the dullest appetite. My son, last day so bashful that he durst not look on a wench, now courts her, and by Our Lady, will make his friend Fortunio wear his head at the right modern fashion. What, Rinaldo?
Enter Rinaldo.
I fear I interrupt your privacy.
Welcome, Rinaldo. Would have been your hap to come a little sooner. You might have seen a handsome side. Let that pass. The short is that your sister Gratiana shall stay no longer here.
No longer, sir. Repent you then so soon your favour to her, and to my brother?
Not so good, Rinaldo, but to prevent a mischief that I see hangs over your abused brother's head. In brief, my son has learned but too much courtship. It's my chance even now to cast mine eye into a place where to your sister entered my metamorphosed son. I must conceal what I saw there, but to be plain, I saw more than I would see. I thought to make my house a kind receipt for your kind brother, but I be loath his wife should find more kindness than she had cause to like of.
What's the matter? Perhaps a little compliment or so?
Well, sir, such compliment perhaps may cost married Fortunio the setting on, nor can I keep my knowledge. He that lately before my face I could not get to look upon your sister, by this light now kissed her, embraced and courted with as good a grace as any courtier could. I can tell you, not to disgrace her, I perceived the dame was as far forward as himself by the mass.
Oh, you should have schooled him for it.
No, I'll not say it, for shame once found is lost. I'll have him think that my opinion of him is the same that it was ever. It will be a mean to bridle this fresh humour bred in him.
Well, let me then school him, but I'll rattle him up.
No, Rinaldo. The only remedy is to remove the cause, carry the object from his late tempted eyes.
Alas, sir, whither? You know my father is incensed so much he'll not receive her.
Place her with some friend, but for a time, till I reclaim your father. Meantime, your brother shall remain with me.
Who cares the less, then? He still has his longing to be with his gull's daughter.
What resolve you? I am resolved she lodges here no more. My friend's son shall not be abused by mine.
Sir, I'll tell you what a sudden toy comes in my head. What think you if I brought her home to my father's house?
Ay, marry, sir. Would he receive her?
Nay, you hear not all. I mean with use of some device or other.
As how, Rinaldo?
Oh, marry, sir, to say she is your son's wife, married past your knowledge.
I doubt last day he saw her, you will know her to be Fortunio's wife.
Nay, as for that, I will pretend she was even then your son's wife, but feigned by me to be Fortunio's, only to try how he would take the matter.
Oh, heavens were pretty.
Would it not do well?
Exceeding well, in sadness.
Nay, good sir, tell me unfeignedly. Do you like it indeed?
Best I ever heard.
And do you think he'll swallow down the gudgeon?
Oh, my life, for a gross gob would not down with him. Honest knight, and simple, not acquainted with the fine slates and polities of the world, as I myself am.
I'll go fetch her straight, and this jest thrived will make us princely sport, but you must keep our counsel. Second all, which is to make likely, you must needs sometimes give your son leave, as if you knew it not, to steal and see her at my father's house.
Ah, but do you see then that you keep good guard over his forward, new-begun affections? For, by the Lord, he'll teach your brother else to sing the cuckoo's note. Spirit will break out, though never so suppressed and pinioned.
Especially your son's. What would he be, if you should not restrain him by good counsel?
I'll have an eye on him, I warrant thee. I'll in and warn the gentlewoman to make ready.
Well, sir, and I'll not be long after you.
Exit Gostanzo.
Heaven, I see these politicians out of blind Fortune's hands are our most fools. Is she that gives the lustre to their wit still plodding at traditional devices? But take 'em out to present actions. A man may grope and tickle 'em like a trout, and take 'em from their close dear holes as fat as a physician, and as giddy-headed as if by miracle heaven had taken from them even that which commonly belongs to fools. Well, now let's note what black ball of debate Valeria's wit hath cast betwixt Cornelio and the enamoured courtier. I believe his wife and he will part. His jealousy hath ever watched occasion of divorce, and now Valerio's villainy will present it. See, here comes the twin courtier, his companion.
Rinaldo, well encountered.
Why, what news?
Most sudden and unfortunate for Rinaldo. Cornelio is incensed so against his wife that no man can procure her quaint with him. I have assuaded him and made Marc Antonio, with all his gentle rhetoric, second me. Yet all, I fear me, will be cast away. See, they come. Join thy wit, good Rinaldo, and help to pacify his yellow fury.
With all my heart, I consecrate my wit to the wished comfort of distressed ladies.
Enter Cornelio, Marc Antonio, Valerio, and Page.
Ye man, assure me of her good behaviour.
Who can assure a jealous spirit? You may be afraid of the shadow of your ears and imagine them to be horns. If you will assure yourself, appoint keepers to watch her.
And who shall watch the keepers?
To be sure of that, be you her keeper.
Well said, and share the horns yourself, for that's the keeper's fee.
But say I am gone out of town and must trust others. How shall I know if those I trust be trusty to me?
Marry, sir, by a singular instinct given naturally to all you married men. And if your wives play légère de heel, though you be 100 miles off, yet you shall be sure instantly to find it in your foreheads.
Sound doctrine, I warrant you. I am resolved, if faith.
Then give me leave to speak, sir, that hath all this while been silent. I have heard you with extreme patience. Now, therefore, prick up your ears and vouchsafe me audience.
Good boy, oh mine honour.
Pray, what are you, sir?
I am here, for default of a better, of counsel with the fair Gazetta, and though herself had been best able to defend herself if she had been here, and would have pleased to put forth the buckler which nature has given all women, I mean her tongue.
Excellent, good boy.
Yet, since she either vouchsafes it not, or thinks her innocence a sufficient shield against your jealous accusations, I will presume to undertake the defense of that absent and honorable lady whose sworn knight I am, and in her, of all that name, for lady is grown a common name to the whole sex, which sex I have ever loved from my youth, I shall never cease to love till I want wit to admire.
An excellent spoken boy.
Give ear, Cornelio. Here is a young Mercurio sent to persuade thee.
Well, sir, let him say on.
It is a heavy case to see how this light sex is tumbled and tossed from post to pillar under the unsavory breath of every humorous peasant. Gazetta, you said, is unchaste, disloyal, and I but not what. Alas, is it her fault? Is she not a woman? Did she not suck it, as other of her sex do, from her mother's breast? And will you condemn that as her fault, which is her nature? Alas, sir, you must consider a woman is an unfinished creature, delivered hastily to the world before nature had set to that seal which should have made them perfect. Faults they have, no doubt, but are we free? Turn your eye unto yourself, good Signor Cornelio, and weigh your own imperfections with hers. If she be wanton abroad, are you not wanting at home? If she be amorous, are you not jealous? If she be high set, are you not taken down? If she be a courtesan, are you not a cuckold?
You rogue.
Hold thy speech, boy.
You do not well, Cornelio, to discourage the bashful youth.
Fourth boy, I warrant thee.
But if our own perfections will not teach us to bear with theirs, yet let their virtues persuade us. Let us endure their bad qualities for their good. Allow the prickle for the rose, the brack for the velvet, the paring for the cheese, and so forth. If you say they range abroad, consider it is nothing but to avoid idleness at home. Their nature is still to be doing. Keep 'em a-doing at home. Let them practice one good quality or other, either sewing, singing, playing, chiding, dancing, or so, and these will put such idle toys out of their heads into yours. But if you cannot find them variety of business within doors, yet at least imitate the ancient wise citizens of this city, who used carefully to provide their wives gardens near the town to plant, to graft in, as occasion served, only to keep them from idleness.
Everlasting good boy.
I perceive your knavery, sir, and will yet have patience.
Forth, my brave Curio.
As to her unquietness, which some have rudely termed shrewishness, though the fault be in her, yet the cause is in you. What so calm as the sea of its own nature? Art was never able to equal it. Your dicing tables, nor your bowling alleys are not comparable to it. Yet, if a blast of wind do but cross it, not so turbulent and violent an element in the world, so nature, in lieu of women's scarcity of wit, having endued them with a large portion of will, if they may, without impeach, enjoy their wills, no quieter creatures under heaven. But if the breath of your husband's mouth once cross their wills, nothing more tempestuous. Why then should your husbands cross your wives' wills thus, considering the law allows them no wills at all at their best, because it intended they should have their wills while they lived?
Answer him but that, Cornelio.
All shall not serve her turn. I am thinking of other matters.
Thou hast half won him, wag. Fly him yet a little further.
Now, sir, for these cuckoish songs of yours, of cuckold horns, grafting, and such like, what are they but mere imaginary toys, bred out of your own heads as your own, and so by tradition delivered from man to man, like scarecrows to terrify fools from this earthly paradise of wedlock, coined at first by some spent poets, superannuated bachelors, or some that were scarce men of their hands, who, like the fox having lost his tail, would persuade others to lose theirs for company. Again, for your cuckold, what is it but a mere fiction? Show me any such creature in nature. If there be, I could never see it. Neither could I ever find any sensible difference betwixt a cuckold and a Christian creature. To conclude, let poets coin, or fools credit what they list. For mine own part, I am clear of this opinion, that your cuckold is a mere chimera, and that there are no cuckolds in the world, but those that have wives, and so I will leave them.
'Tis excellent good, sir. I do take you, sir, do you see, to be, as it were, bastard to the saucy courtier that would have me furthermore of your fraternity, do you see, and so are instructed, as we hear, to second that villainy with your tongue, which he has acted with his 10-year piece, do you see?
No such matter. Oh, my credit, sir.
Well, sir, be as be may, I scorn to set my head against yours. Do you see? When in the meantime I will fuck your father, whether you see or no.
Exit Cornelio, drawing his rapier.
God's my life, Cornelio.
Exit Rinaldo.
Have at your father, a faith boy, if he can find him.
See, he comes here. He has missed him.
Enter Dariotto.
Oh, now, my hearts. What, not a wench amongst you? It's a sign you're not in the grace of wenches. They will let you that will let you be thus long alone.
Well, Dariotto, Glory not too much that for thy brisk attire and lips perfumed thou place the stallion ever where thou comest, and like the husband of the flock runs through the whole town herd, and no man's bed secure, no woman's honor unattempted by thee. Ha! Think not to be thus fortunate forever. But in thy amorous conquests at the last some wound will slice your mazer. Mars himself fell into Vulcan's snare, and so may you.
Alas, alas, Faith, I have but the name. I love to court and win, and the consent without the act obtained is all I seek. I love the victory that draws no blood.
Oh, 'tis a high desert in any man to be a secret lecher. I know some that, like myself, are true in nothing else.
And methinks it is nothing if not told. At least the joy is never full before.
Well, Dariotto, that's 'tis good, confess. The sun shines broad upon your practices. Vulcan will wake and intercept you one day.
Why, the more jealous knave and coxcomb me. What? Shall the shaking of his bed a little put him in motion? Becomes him not. Let him be dull, staled, and then be quiet. The way to draw my custom to his house is to be mad and jealous. 'Tis the sauce that whets my appetite.
Or any man's. Sine pericolo frigit lusus. They that are jealous use it still of purpose to draw you to their houses.
I, by heaven, am of that opinion. Who would steal out of a common orchard? Let me gain my love with labour, enjoy it with fear, or I'm gone.
Enter Rinaldo.
Oh, Dariotto here, Sfoot. Darest thou come near Cornelio's house?
Why, is the bull run mad? What ails he, Trow?
I know not what he ails, but I would wish you to keep out of the reach of his sharp horns, for by this hand he'll gore you.
And why me, more than thyself, or these two other whelps? You have all basted him as well as I. Wonder what that's the cause.
Nay, that he knows and swears withal that wheresoever he meets you, he'll mark you for a marker of men's wives.
Oh, pray heaven he be not jealous by some tales that have been told him lately. Did you never attempt his wife? Hath no love's harbinger, no looks, no letters passed twixt you and her?
The looks I cannot answer. I bestow them at large and carelessly, much like the sun. Can he be so foolish as to apply them to any private fancy of their own, as many do? It's not my fault, thou knowest.
Well, Dariotto, this set face of thine, if thou be guilty of offence to him, comes out of very want of wit and feeling what danger haunts thee. For Cornelio is a tall man, I tell you, and 'twere best you shunned his sight a while, till we might get his patience or his pardon. For past doubt thou diest if he but see thee.
Enter Cornelio.
Sfoot, he comes.
Is this the cockatrice that kills with sight? How dost thou, boy? Huh?
Well,
What? Lingering still about this paltry town? Hadst thou been ruled by my advice, thou'dst by this time been a gallant courtier, and at least a knight. I would have got thee dubbed by this time, certain.
and why then did you not yourself that honour?
Such, 'tis more honour still to make a knight than 'tis to be a knight. To make a cuckold than 'tis to be a cuckold.
You're a villain.
God shield, man. Villain?
I'll prove thee one.
What, wilt thou prove a villain? By this light thou deceivest me then.
Well, sir, thus I prove it.
And draws.
Hold, raise the streets.
Face.
Cornelio!
Hold, Dariotto, hold.
What, art thou hurt?
A scratch, a scratch.
Oh, sirrah, fetch a surgeon.
Exit page.
You'll set a badge on the jealous fool's head, sir. Now set a coxcomb on your own.
What's the cause of these wars, Dariotto?
Should I know not?
Well, sir, know and spare not. I will presently be divorced, and then take her amongst ye.
Divorced? Nay, good Cornelio.
By this sword I will. The world shall not dissuade me.
Exit Cornelio.
Why, this has been your fault now, Dariotto. You youths have fashions. When you have obtained a lady's favour, straight your hat must wear it, like a jackdaw that when he lights upon a dainty morsel, caws and makes his brags, and then some kite doth scoop it from him straight, where if he fed without his doish noise, he might fare better and have less disturbance. Forbear it in this case, and when you prove victorious over fair Gazetta's fort, do not for pity sound your trump for joy, but keep your valour close, and 'tis your honour.
Enter Page and Pock.
God save you, Signor Dariotto.
Doctor, your name, I pray?
My name is Pock, sir, a practitioner in surgery.
Pock, the surgeon. You're welcome, sir. I know a doctor of your name, Master Pock.
My name has made many doctors, sir.
Indeed, 'tis a worshipful name.
Marry is it, and of an ancient descent.
Faith, sir, I could fetch my pedigree far if I were so disposed.
Out of France, at least.
And if I stood on my arms, as others do.
No, do not, Pock. Let others stand on their arms, and thou thy legs, as long as thou canst.
Though I live by my bare practice, yet I could show good cards for my gentility.
Hush, thou canst not shake off thy gentry, Pock. 'Tis bred in the bone. But to the main, Pock, what thinkst thou of this gentleman's wound, Pock? Canst thou cure it, Pock?
The incision is not deep, nor the orifice exorbitant. The pericrationinon is not dislocated. I warrant his life for 40 crowns without perishing of any joint.
Faith, Pock, 'tis a joint I'd be loath to lose for the best joint of mutton in Italy.
Would such a scratch as this hazard a man's head?
Aye, by Our Lady, sir, I have known some have lost their heads for a less matter. I can tell you, therefore, sir, that you must keep good diet. If you please to come home to my house till you be perfectly cured, I shall have the more care of you.
That's your only course, to have it well quickly.
By what time will he have it well, sir?
A very necessary question. Canst thou limit the time?
Oh, sir, cures are less causes in law, which may be lengthened or shortened at the discretion of the lawyer. He can either keep it green with replications or rejoinders, or sometimes skin it fair at the outside for fashion's sake. But so he may be sure 'twill break out again by a writ of error, and then has he his suit now to begin. But I will covenant you that by such a time I'll make your head as sound as a bell. I will bring it to suppuration, and after I will make it coagulate and grow to a perfect cicatrice, and all within these 10 days, so you keep a good diet.
Well, come, Pock. We'll talk further on within. Draws near dinner time. What's o'clock, boy?
By your clock, it should be almost 1, for your head rung noon some half hour ago.
It's true, sir.
Way, let him alone. Though he came in at the window, he sets the gates of your honour open, I can tell you.
Come in, Pock. Come, apply. For this deed I'll give the knave a wound shall never bleed.
So, sir, I think this knock rings loud acquittance for my ridiculous...
Exeunt all but Rinaldo and Valerio.
Well, sir, to turn our heads to salve your license, since you have used the matter so unwisely that now your father has discerned your humour and your too careless usage in his house, your wife must come from his house to Antonio's, and he, to entertain her, must be told she is not wife to his son, but to you, which news will make his simple wit triumph over your father, and your father, thinking he still is gulled, will still account him simple. Come, sir, prepare your villainous wit to feign a kind submission to your father's fury. We shall see what hearty policy he will discover in his feigned anger to blind Antonio's eyes and make him think he thinks her heartily to be your wife.
Oh, I will gull him rarely, with my wench low, kneeling at my heels before his fury, and injury shall be salved with injury.
And end of Act 3, chunky as it was. It does move the plot forward. It is doing things, but it is also allowing set pieces, and the set pieces can be kept or removed. I quite like the fact that the Pages set piece is this sort of shaggy dog argument that ends with, and there are no cuckolds unless they're
Except married men.
unless they're married men. I mean, she's like, well, duh. And I just quite like some of that. And obviously, it does have a plot function, but it doesn't need to go on as long as it does. And there's a lot of there. And then the Doctor turns up, and the Doctor is like, he's got this tiny scratch from the contretemps, and the Doctor's got some great stuff. I mean, it's comparing it to Law, and it's a really nice little set piece, but it's not a long set piece. It is really quite short, and it just gives someone a chance to pop on, do some massive overacting, and enjoy themselves, which is exactly what the part is, is there to do. Simon and then Alan.
I was just going to ask, did anyone get the sense that the Page was just making it up as he went along? Because it just seemed to be a lot of contrary things just vomited out and then back again. Really bizarre, but fun.
I think the logic for the Page is it's the kind of thing that it's the form of the thing that an education will be giving them. The form of how you do a disputation, the form of how you construct an argument. But it's just circular, and it doesn't really, and it's like it doesn't quite work, and then he just sort of tries to stick the landing with this nonsensical epithet. So there's a lot of work you do with the Page. It's just a question of whether is your journey really necessary, kind of. I mean, there is some point to the Page. It's not completely pointless, but whether you need all of it is a question. Alan, then Susan.
I must admit, on the Page, I was wondering whether, in fact, it was one of the ladies who we've met previously, disguised, which is not an unknown trope in plays that we've dealt with.
No, it's just a Page part.
Because it did seem incredibly wordy for pages who normally are reasonably taciturn. And
oh no, we've had some epic Pages before. I mean, Boys Company plays. Pages can do comedy skits, and because they can go away and sort of rehearse their own individual comedy skit by them. So you get that impression that this is someone's been taken aside by whoever's in charge of the company at this time, and they've worked really hard together to really make that work. And I said in the chat, it feels like that sort of apprentice, masterpiece sort of logic. This is your graduation part. It's not a huge part, but we can test whether you can say the speech, and if you do totally muck it up, we'll just move the play on after that, and it'll be fine. Susan, then Lynn.
No, the other point I was going to make, Rob, was that the Pocks did feel to me like that's the role for the guy who might normally play the clown.
Well, again,
the verbal ticks.
Well, it's a question of what the Boys Company does in terms of that
brilliant words.
Yeah. Again, it's a question of how much doubling Boys Companies do. Is it a relatively small part for someone who's very good at the funnies? There's all sorts of questions there. I suspect it's a doubled role, but it might not be. Boys Company being what they are. They're not infinite in casting, though. Susan.
It's just a tiny thing. And going back to the Page, I think I would play him with a massive joint in his hand and a Camberwell carrot or something, because he's sort of, that thing where you think you're going to find the meaning of life and you never kind of get there. Anyway, that's just what I would do if I was inventing a character there.
Lynn.
I think the fact that the Page says almost nothing in his first appearance or two is part of the gag. It's like he's almost a supernumerary, and then he just doesn't half go on, like, and then he falls silent again almost. It's like, go get a doctor. He doesn't even say yes, sir. He just goes. So and he comes back and he doesn't say, here's the doctor. He says nothing. So I mean, I think that's kind of the gag, is that he doesn't talk until he talks, and then Katie barred the door.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, quite a lot, incidentally, in terms of moving on the plot's been going on here, and the plots are starting to get more complicated and more intertwined to the point where actually I suspect within the context of us reading it here, we might not quite be following all of the little bits and pieces. I've definitely I've had to nip in and out of the room, so I've slightly lost the plot myself. But it's moving on, and there's something mechanically very well thought out for this play, I think. And it's where it's utilizing its classical sources and its classical learning to effect. So there is a really interesting question about dealing with the text, getting used to what this dialogue is doing so that it can function. And it's also a question of stakes, and it's something we won't be able to answer until tomorrow when we do the final half of the play, is some of the problems we have with some of these characters partly depends on whether any meaningful harm is done by them. And of course, you never know with an early modern play. Something really, truly horrible could happen, even in a comedy. But it could also be so caricatured that some of the problems that we're having with elements of these characters might actually fall away to a greater degree, and we might be fine. But we won't know that till we finish the play. And hey, the curse of the final session is real. Lois, were you waiting?
Yeah. I mean, I would suspect that some of these long speeches are based on some classical prototype. An awful lot of stuff seems always to come out of Ovid, the Art of Love, or the Amores, but I don't know. But yeah, the odd thing is that, I mean, this could have been really nasty. I mean, as far as I can make out, the page is supposed to be, I think, Dariotto's son. And presumably, Valerio has got hold of him and got him to incite Cornelio against Dariotto, so that they will have a fight, which could have ended with somebody being killed, as far as I can see. But somehow, because this is a comedy, he must know that's not going to happen. I mean, he's taking revenge because Cornelio and Dariotto kind of encouraged him to perform, to play the lute, to sing, and to dance. And then they all told him that he's totally incompetent at all these things after having flattered him into it. So he's now furious and he's getting back at them. And I can only assume, I mean, generally speaking, when people get hit on the head, even if there's blood, this is comic. I mean, if it's a tragedy, if they're actually going to die, they get run through somewhere else. I don't know why, but there seem to be a lot of plays where this happens. But how Valerio could know that, both these people wouldn't be lying dead at the end of that episode. I guess we're just not supposed to think about that.
Well, again, if we're looking at comedy violence kind of logic, then birds tweeting and circling the head kind of the situation there. And I wonder whether it's a really easy costume prop logic of if you knock someone on the head and you get them to be really grumpy, then having a bandage around their head makes them look slightly comic, but is also a really straightforward signifier that you can put on really quickly. Whereas, bandaged arm, those aren't inherently funny. And I think maybe there's something about the head that is. So, Lynn, sorry. Say again, Lynn?
And you don't have to worry about damaging your costumes, which was a big investment for these, and washing the blood out. You don't have to worry if the injury's on the head, then your costume is clean.
Yeah, all the actor has to do is just go with a bit of on their hand, and they've marked their head as well if they want to do it that way. We can talk about the mechanics of any of these fights as well. I mean, where injuries occur is always an interesting question. Any additional final thoughts? Because obviously we've rattled through a lot of text, and that may also mean that we're also all just going, actually, we needed a little bit more interruptions to actually sort of actually pick apart and find stuff to talk about, and that may actually have done the play down a bit because we actually went at it with too much pace. But I really wanted to get through this act if we could. Lynn.
So just some random things. Sometime before tomorrow, I'm going to have to sit down and make myself like a family tree or a flow chart or something, because I have lost the thread. So we're pretending we're lying, but we're telling the truth about someone that's actually married by now. Is that what's going?
Yeah,
yeah. So, boy, that's so complicated. So, challenge is going to be getting your audience to follow that, or to not care that they can't follow it. And And the language is also making it hard. The language is so mannered. That and maybe that was part of the humor at the time, but yeah, getting your actors to handle the language in a way that comes off as very very light and fun and musical. That's going to be work. So those are two challenges. And then just another random thought. This is feeling more and more restoration to me. What was the year on this again?
1604, 5-ish.
That's really early. Yeah, because like all this who's married to whom, and the concern with the concern, marriage as a transaction, as a financial transaction, that's very restoration. What's very much
all the cuckoldry as well.
But I know, I just the gallants and like that, like life is such a game for it. Just is feeling really country wife to me.
And I think we have been here before. I mean, a lot of city comedies have those seeds, and a lot of comedy of humors. We haven't in this room done many humorous comedies for a while, but in terms of temporally in the timeline, they're only a few years old. I mean, they're starting to drift out as a thing. But Chapman was not uninvolved in that, and there's an element of that in here as well. I think of that we have these big caricatures, and if you get the language right and you go in with quite a bold acting choice, I think this lands better. And I think also those confusions are after that first scene, which I think is genuinely confusing. I think the play does land enough markers and visual markers as well, that watching a play, you would have a chance of following what the hell is going on, in a way that in a reading, I don't think we can. Alan, then Simon.
I'm just wondering whether we know that Chapman was a classicist, famously so, and I wonder whether, in fact, what's happened is that he's so imbued in the Latinate word forms that he's forgotten how to write English that's comprehensible.
I don't think it's that. Because there are other playwrights at the time doing complex language things as well. He's not alone, and he's not unpopular. So I think it may be that just simply that our understanding of how English bounces along has shifted to a degree as well, and we're not. It just didn't catch on later on. Simon.
Have I misremembered that the Chapman and the Young Boys do stuff at universities, right? For the university circuit, was that
sorry,
right?
So say again. I'm having an annoying phone call.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Was Chapman and the company, were they intrinsically a part of university Revels? Were they?
No, not really.
Public theatres.
So these are a boy company. They're established in London, and they may play at court. But there will be some connections in the sense of they're young people getting an education. So there are some similarities with university plays and things like that, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Yeah, in a roundabout way. Exactly. Just because my final thought really would be, I think if you zing along with this, it probably helps if everyone is absolutely off their face, including the audience, and I think you can probably just enjoy it.
Well, there's almost always lots of refreshment available in playhouses. There are almost always adjuncts to a fair amount of booze, but then again, everywhere's an adjunct to a fair amount of booze. Lynn, I think.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to bounce off Alan. I mean, almost everybody writing at this point had some grounding in Latin, and I do think it affects the syntax of pretty much everybody. Is that in Latin you can manipulate word order for emphasis or for rhythm or whatever, because the word endings tell you how the word functions grammatically. And I think that bleeds into the writing in this period, is that what we consider normal word order is kind of up for grabs, because people have sort of internalized manipulating word order for various aesthetic reasons. So yeah, I think Latin's an influence on pretty much everybody here.
Yeah, and also, these are boys who are being trained in these techniques as well, so they will have they'll be quite fluid with this text in
Yeah,
a way
it
that
won't
perhaps
feel
we're
weird. It
not.
won't feel weird to them the way it does to us. Yeah.
It's us, not them. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the Latin. I mean, Chapman is very mannered. I think in the first scene there was a speech where the same line was repeated several times as a sort of refrain, which is something he also does in Bussy Dam Boys, I remember. And or there'll be speeches where you get the same word coming at the end of the line, and these are all they're rhetorical names for all of them, which I'm not good at, but. I mean, he's deliberately playing with that, and probably the audience would enjoy spotting all of these things too.
It's interesting because some of those rhetorical flourishes are the kinds of thing that I would have thought were starting to die out by this point, because it's plays like the Spanish tragedy indulges in those kinds of flourishes. That's 25 odd years ago.
Well, that was really very elaborate rhetoric. I mean, some of those things where you get a whole series of nouns and then the next line is a whole series of verbs that go with those nouns. I mean,
but oddly easier to follow than Chapman's. I'm afraid. I think I prefer kids.
It's interesting to work out just why it is so difficult. I think it's partly abstraction. I don't know. He tends to sort of things in a roundabout, abstract way.
It's very parenthetical, like literally. I had lots of things in parentheses when I was doing that page thing. So,
and that does connect with a lot of Restoration drama, where you shift and go in a different direction, and then you come, and at some point you get to the point of the sentence, and it's like you need to sometimes just fill it out. Some of those to make sentences flow in a way that feels natural to us today, and they're incredibly hard to learn as well sometimes, because you have so many different shifts in direction, let alone when we get into the number of clauses available. Simon.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in a way, I like that though, because as part of an acting craft would be what I call uniting, breaking up the different thoughts and thinking of you know what I mean, and thinking of them as parenthetical. Self-containing units can really help you, I think, draw out the meaning. And funny enough, I actually find the way he writes, although yes, it's incredibly dense, and let's not even get started with the plot. But in terms of motivational stuff for the actor, for the characters, I quite like the way it takes you clearly on a little journey, of which there are many decisions that you can make as you're doing it instinctively. But I kind of enjoy that as a challenge, actually.
Yeah, I do think this is offering actors something to do, and that's important. I mean, it's just, I do think you'd need to set aside at least a week to just get the text moving before you even start about character and all the other stuff, and so you can basically forget about the technique that you need to be working with, and get on with the acting afterwards. That is not unusual for the early modern period and the modern actor. Anyway, we have seriously run out of time. We crammed far too much into this session, but we got to the end. We made it. Till next time, all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye to the Orifice Exorbitant.